So thanks everybody for joining. I'm Una Buckley. So I'll be just running through some slides today on a little bit of neurodiversity, time management, all things to be kind of looking out for in terms of coping skills and strategies really around Dyslexia Awareness Month. So I'll just pull up some slides and we'll get going. Hopefully everybody can see them. Grace, you might let me know if you can see the slides.
Can see it. All good. I think if you just present it, that'll make it a bit bigger.
Okay, sorry. It should be working now, is it? Oh, okay, sorry. So it's a normal screen on my side. Okay, I'll just go with this way. Again,
No worries.
obviously if anybody wants to link in with us, after more than happy to share the slides. So there's no bother. We'll just get going just so that everybody can move through the topics as best as possible. So I've worked with a number of organisations to date, primarily on dyslexia and neurodiversity support. A lot over here in Ireland. I'm Irish based, but we do an awful lot of work in the UK as well with dyslexia awareness groups and organisations. I suppose our main service and offerings is working with students primarily on a one-to-one basis. So if that's a student in a school system, if that's a student outside of a school system, it's really about, I suppose, those support strategies that we can implement for them. Alongside of that, then there are a range of parent, teacher support, different support options and different support groups. And also our main offering is also between school transitions. So helping maybe transition a student from school to school, and as we move through school systems basically, and school to college also. These are some of our details. If anybody has any questions, obviously feel free to jump on at the end of the session. Ideally, obviously with this topic, at times it might be quite personal or might be quite individualistic. So no problem if somebody wants to reach out and send me an email, and please do so throughout the session or after the session. There's no problem there. So to just give a little bit of an overview on learning differences, just so that everybody's kind of up to space and on the same page. I know everybody might be coming at this from a different lens. So some might be very familiar with it, and some then might be just a little bit unsure for themselves, unsure for maybe a child at home, or even, a teacher in a classroom. So dyslexia primarily is quite a broad level of understanding, and it kind of affects a student on a number of different areas, both inside and outside of school. Up the top hand side there, we have a number of kind of core areas that may be intertwined with dyslexia: phonological awareness, auditory processing, working memory, processing speed, and executive functioning. So they may all be affected with a student with dyslexia or a learning difference. And it really is about, okay, if a student has a formal assessment, how best can we implement those ongoing strategies to help and support them through, if it's a career or through an education system. As we know, multisensory approaches is the best approach really being proven from a research base. So combining levels of approaches to learning helps retain the information longer for a student, and particularly the way the education system is still set up in the world, to be able to produce it then into an exam environment. So some of those strategies we'll be looking at today, along with kind of the time management element that we'll be looking into now. So I suppose initially to chat a little bit about time management, I suppose, and the concept of understanding time management. So I suppose really in general, people may struggle with time management. Okay, and that's really goes without saying, really, in a way. People may be early for stuff, late for things, and prioritize certain things, and then find it difficult to get to other appointments and bits and pieces. So time management can be a strain for lots of people. But I suppose when you come at it from a neurodiversity lens, of which I am, so I'm also dyslexic and have dysgraphia and dyscalculia, you come at it from that lens, there may be what we call a distortion of time understanding. So that has two layers. The first layer is from an education system perspective. Unfortunately, analog and digital clocks are often taught in quite close tandem. So for students that may need longer to process the information, may find it difficult to understand new concepts, those things looked at both closely together, they may get confused quite quickly. So for instance, they may be learning analog clock for a week or two and then expect to be going straight on to digital clock and expect to have that same level of understanding. So it has that scope of it where it may be difficult to comprehend and difficult to understand. The second layer of it for a student with neurodiversity elements is their understanding and concept of time. And what we mean by that is, unfortunately, when we're in a system that often has more demands than can be fulfilled, often time is an issue with carrying out homework or studying or carrying out schoolwork. So for that basis, I suppose really it may often take a student an awful lot longer to complete homework or to complete activities. So their understanding of, okay, it's going to take me 10 minutes to do my maths, then it might take me 20 minutes to do my maths. It might take me 5 minutes to read. Well, actually, it might take you 20 minutes to read. That alignment of how long an activity can take can start at a very young level and then move through as we get older. Oh, it's going to take me 5 minutes to send this email, then it might take me 10 minutes. It's going to take me 5 minutes to go to that place. Actually, it's like 15 minutes away. So that concept of how we position time in our head starts at a really young age and it builds from there. It's like the foundations of a building. So it's really important for younger students as best as possible that they become comfortable with not only telling the time, both analog and digital, which lots of people struggle with, but also the realization of what is actually tangibly feasible in the space of 60 seconds. And that can often be practiced with egg timers or different, timers on phones or on watches as to, okay, do what you can in 60 seconds and then we'll see and we'll reevaluate as to what is achievable. So teaching them those tools at an age group, but ideally a young age group, really helps the understanding of time and then what is feasible with managing time. Then to link in, I suppose, here with our picture diagram. So it has a series of different stages and all of which we'll kind of jump into today with along with some other topics. But I suppose time is directly correlated to goals. And every part of the world anymore is all about goal setting for all different age groups and work and school and education. And goals can be useful if they're obviously prioritized and if they're somewhat achievable. It's not a very broad, never-ending goal. It's something that we're hopefully going to get by a particular time or a particular day or we're working towards. And that then is also time specific. So if a student is preparing for a test or preparing to sit an exam or even preparing for a driving test or any of those things, whatever their goals are, it's working back from there to the realistic allotted time that needs to be implemented. And generally speaking, we'll always need more time than what is allocated. So having what we call buffer time is really, really important. Then that links in with prioritization and we'll double back to prioritization and how students can prioritize more in terms of task space. Setting a time limit, though, on point number 3, I think is really, really useful. And we do this with a lot of younger students that we work with, particularly with carrying out homework and carrying out tasks. Because if you can imagine, I suppose, the general scope of homework, depending upon the age range, but general scope of homework for a younger student should take really no more than 25 to 30 minutes. Yet some students may be spending 45 minutes, maybe spending an hour, may even be spending longer than that. So it's really about setting those time limits on those day-to-day activities. So then a student becomes familiar with, okay, I need to get this done in this amount of time. And then they're tracking that time as well. So if it's on an egg timer, if it's on a timer on their watch, if it's on a timer on a cooker, so they can understand how the activity relates to the time. Then the breaks.
Sorry, just quick thing. Is it possible to sorry to interrupt. Is it possible to click from the current slide in the left corner to make it larger? We have some people saying that they're unable to read the slides.
I could, Grace, yeah, but unfortunately it froze when I did it the first time. So
Okay, so
just
no
say
worries.
no
No
problem.
worries. Just when
No, but I think with the shared settings, because of how we set up the webinar for the Zoom, it's a little tricky. But as I mentioned, guys, for anybody that wants access to the slides, that's no problem. I can share those afterwards. But it should be quite visible if people zoom in either on a screen or on a phone. But again, I can give people access.
Great.
There's no
Thank
problem.
you. Thank you so much.
Grace.
And just so you know, we only work with adults.
No.
Great. Thank you.
Perfect. So then the taking breaks between tasks. So I suppose when we're looking at, at a time management aspect, we want to take those intermittent breaks when we're, finishing something and moving on to the next task. So let's say if we're looking at a task that's going to take X amount of time, it's setting that limit for that time, ideally stepping away from the activity then for, it can even be as short as 30, 60 seconds. It doesn't have to be a long period of time. Often people think breaks is going to be regular and, they have to go off and do lots of things during a break. The idea of a break is we're stepping away from something to then go back into something, either continue it or go back and enjoying something new. So those breaks help to recharge and refuel, not drain additional energy. Then for tip number 5, I suppose that organisation element. Now, organisation and time management, along with the neurodiversity element, go all in tandem, really. So a student that may be more organised may have a different concept of time and may manage the neurodiversity differently. Somebody that may have a difficult relationship with time may also be what we call a little bit scattered or maybe a little bit more disorganised, and then they may struggle with different areas from a neurodiversity space. So it really is about, and we do an awful lot of workshops around this, around organising environment, either a desk environment, a home environment, an office environment, or a school environment. Whatever it is, it doesn't really matter in terms of the logistics on it, but it really is about organising that space so a person is already set up to fulfil that task and to execute the time. We'd have lots of people that, will distract themselves, with, okay, we'll clear this all off and this will be fed into the time that we've allotted to do a task. So for instance, they took 20 minutes or they said they do this email or send this item to somebody and this might take 20 minutes or half an hour of their time. Well, they may spend 15 minutes of that tidying up their space or brushing over papers from yesterday or doing those activities. So it really is about organising the space prior, so then we're clearly focused on executing the task within then that time frame. Then removal of non-essential tasks. So I suppose again links in with that prioritization piece. How do we prioritize activities versus other activities? And then planning ahead where possible. So for all of us, planning may be essential to fit things in and move through both family and work life and then education life. And that planning ahead is often, very tied in with time allowance. I don't have the time to do that now. Maybe I need to do that in a few months' time, or, in a year's time, or I want to do this project, or I want to go back and do this course or help a student with all these aspects. It's time orientated, so it really is about how do we best plan ahead, but also then be realistic about the time that those activities take. So this little, I suppose, mind map or a little bit of a wheel, depending on what way you're looking at, is really interesting to look at as we look and notice as ourselves all the activities that need to be fitted in throughout a day. There's obviously a combination of work or education, exercise, maybe we're learning, we're trying to look after ourselves, look after others, linking with friends or family. We need to go to sleep, hopefully, and we need to have downtime. So all of these things take whatever portion of time you feel is accountable for you. There's obviously a huge misconception on this concept of work-life balance and that balance attribute. Unfortunately, that balance aspect will never be achievable because in theory we're either at school or we're at work for a huge portion of the day. So it really is about prioritizing then those other activities for yourself and how those get integrated and linked in. As we know from neurodiversity studies, unfortunately, there is more of a tie to stress and anxiety and well-being difficulties for anybody that may have neurodiversity challenges. And that's been proven through many, many research studies over, many decades, really, because of the strain of an education system might have on a person. Then when they either finish or they leave school, that impact might be still there for them. So I suppose it really is about going back to the basics of whatever method works for you, lists or checklists or picture diagrams or reminders or digital or diary formats. It's finding that structure aspect and then that allotted with the time. So on our previous slide, that organization piece with the time piece. We can't manage and execute time if overall we don't feel like we're organized or we're organized in our life. Both of them go in tandem. And this is very simple to illustrate then from one area to the next area. So let's say if you're focusing on maybe one of these cohorts first, of trying to prioritize maybe learning, if you want to do an online course, or if you want to, help somebody with something, if we can focus on one of the strands initially and try and fit those in, organize them, fit that in time, and then those habits can be then fed into other aspects then of our life, because all of them at some level need to be somewhat structured or time allotted to. So just an overall, I suppose, level of strategies from a neurodiversity base, but also linking in with kind of useful strategies and tips. There is a wide range of dyslexia font, and I suppose lots of students might use this, and of all different age groups really, both font that might be specific dyslexia friendly or neurodiversity friendly on Word or on Microsoft Office, but also dyslexia based font then that can be downloaded from the internet and put onto a Word document. And this can be used if somebody is organizing tools, if they're doing up some notes of things that they need to do throughout that day, if it's a student for their homework, if there's a project to complete, whatever it can be. The tasks that they can be just either typed instead of handwritten, because it's important to note, obviously, as a student might have dyslexia. We didn't look at it today, but dysgraphia also is the difficulty maybe based with handwriting. So lots of people may be typing more than handwriting out things that they have to do. Ideally then limiting kind of white backgrounds and on white blank paper. So there's a lot of research that shows that the color pages, which are growing in popularity of yellows and blues and greens, and even tints on screens and different background colors, can change that monotony from a black or blue text to a white background. And this again can be turned into picture diagrams if it's for younger students and what they have to do. It can be turned into normal bullet points if it's from an adult base. It doesn't really matter, but an element of color can add a bit more of a variety and a bit more of structure to them. Color overlays can be great, particularly for again, if it's a white page, and if somebody's finding it difficult even to read or to understand sometimes what they've written. So if they wrote out a list and they're like, jeepers, I can't read what that already says, color overlays can be used as well with reading a book, so putting the color overlay on top of the readable book and helping change that format also. Limiting the use of red pen for corrections is kind of our general overview, and one instructions at a time. I suppose really in terms of those, they're from a whole base of what I call, that will apply to all aspects of neurodiversity. If somebody is stressed with, trying to complete something or trying to do a task under time management or under different activities, it really is about breaking things back down to what are the small things that can be done and the small incremental steps that can be taken along the path, instead of trying to, take the whole chunk and complete them all in one go. And then the last few, I suppose, really the essential pieces here, as we looked at, is from the breaks perspective, and ideally trying to incorporate some aspect of movement breaks in with that timeline. So studies have proven, obviously, the need for us to move regularly, but also from a neurodiversity stance, how important the movement is with helping with learning and memory and retention. And if we're taking that break to do the 30 seconds before we're coming back in to do our next 15-minute block of time, that movement break is then helping us and preparing us for that next section. So ideally, if we can incorporate some balance activities or some light stretching, with COVID, with people that we worked with, they used to just walk up and down the stairs or walk around the garden and jump back in again. So it really is those small things. It doesn't have to be, a big activity or, a lengthy level of exercise. It can just be those small chunks that help break up the general day of tasks. So just to do a side detour, I suppose, on building confidence and resilience, I'll just highlight the main ones that we need to look at. So building confidence and resilience, I suppose, really is tied into fundamentally from a neurodiversity aspect. So someone that maybe have an assessment or doesn't have an assessment, but finds certain aspects difficult, and they're looking maybe to do an assessment for themselves or with somebody else. Generally, over time, as we mentioned, there may be a level of anxiety or stress that might be building to move through a previous education system to get where they are now, or they're still in the education system. And it really is about, okay, how do we create some level of confidence and resilience, which ties in with all aspects? If we're more confident and resilient in an education system, the chances are hopefully we can perform better, therefore we can manage our time better, therefore we might be able to achieve better in an exam environment. Similarly with after school, if it's, you know, college or third level or in a workplace environment, ideally if we're working on our confidence and resilience, hopefully with that in tandem, we're working on our time management while we're also working on our organization. Because generally people that, you know, are somewhat confident have some bit of organization going on in their life. And they're generally not people that are very, you know, chaotic and don't know where things are or don't know what's going on. There is some level of organization or structure that works for them. So maybe an alternative level of structure. It might not be the atypical type of structure, but it may be a structure that isn't fitting for them and suits their style. As a kind of a brief synopsis, I suppose really what we mainly work on here is trying to celebrate those achievements and the time allotted to that activity. So for instance, if it's a student with a test, or if they did well in a spelling test, if somebody, you know, was finishing off reading a book, if somebody's finishing off doing a project, if it's small, medium or large project, doesn't really matter. If somebody got a promotion or, you know, those things change as we progress through life. It really is about, I suppose, commemorating the level of involvement and the level of time commitment to get to that. Because every activity can't always be, okay, I organize it, I plan it, I time, I achieve, and we just move on to the next one. You know, then we're just going around and around in a conveyor belt or on a merry-go-rounds. You know, it really is that once we reach possibly that end goal or that end task, if it's the end of the day or the end of the year or an end of an academic cycle, it really is about then trying to create that element of achievement and celebrating that aspect of success. And there is a bit of a common myth around the celebration of achievement that it needs to be this big thing, or, you know, people need to go off and do something really big and really important. It's not really the case. You know, that level of kind of gratification that is either given to a person or to ourselves can be as small as buying some flowers, listening to a, you know, chirpy song, watching a movie. They can be those day-to-day tasks that are just integrated differently as a celebratory aspect than a normal day achievement. Okay, guys, just before we wrap up, and I'll stay on to take any questions. Obviously, just to let you know, as we mentioned in the initial opening, so we work on a direct basis and with lots of different age ranges, but also we have a How to Help Dyslexics course. And in this course, we're looking at kind of some aspects we looked at today, but in a lot more detail. So really on kind of home-based strategies, studied strategy aspects, spelling, writing, assistive technology, and really on those day-to-day practicalities of if we have a goal, how do we kind of plan and prioritize, and then how do we work towards achieving it? And then we also have a strand as well from a teacher base or from an academic base as well. So if anybody had any questions around those or any questions in general, please feel free to jump on. Two last short bits, if people don't mind, I'll just throw in a feedback form into the chat. Again, there might be kind of individual questions, you know, so if anybody has kind of personalized questions, please feel free to put them in there instead if you wish. If you don't want to come on and tell us all about your dilemmas, please put them in there and I can follow back with you, no problem. And then in tandem to that, every month, but also as part of Dyslexia Awareness Month, we draft up booklets with, you know, general tips and suggestions for all age ranges around, you know, assistive technology, if it's writing, spelling, organization strategies, lots of different aspects throughout the month. So if anybody would like to get access to those as well, please feel free to send me an email. And then this is just an overview of some useful sites and suggestions. So again, I can send those on to anybody afterwards if they'd like some top tips and kind of some free bits and resources.
Great. Thank you so much, Una. Yeah, so as Una mentioned, if you have any questions, feel free to put them in the chat box or in the question and answer box. I know we've had some questions come through. But Una, just like to kind of start asking some questions and continuing the conversation. One of the things that we talk a lot about in our support group is just kind of like what digital resources people find that have been working for them. So in terms of time management, obviously we do a lot of work digitally, managing emails, managing to-do lists, all that. Is there any like apps, resources, types of planners that you have found that work best?
Yeah, that's a great question, Grace. I think, for everybody, I suppose it really is important to note how individual lots of these are. So, like for some instance, somebody might like a really loud, timer that goes off and like that really like shocks their system. And for others, that might be way too, hypersensitive and from a sensory tie, that might not be suitable. Some people really love, as we know, obviously the Google calendars. I'm still paper based, so I have a massive, a normal traditional A4 diary and everything gets written into that. So I suppose it really is about maybe trialing a few different techniques and tools as to what best would suit you to maintain your level of time management and organization. So if that's writing everything in to a digital app, if it's writing everything into a book app, let's say, or from that desktop perspective, it really is about maybe trialing what works for you, really, because it is very much about what way you'll integrate it into your daily life. I've seen loads of people try loads of apps and they put stuff in it, but then they actually forget to click in, or they forget to use it, or they don't update the app, or there's free and there's paid versions. So it really is about trying to get something, not to overcomplicate it, because there's no point in having 12 apps and they have to click into all of them and check all the different things. Ideally, you want something that is a one-stop shop. So for instance, some people, you say to me, well, why don't I have one diary for this and one diary for that? Generally speaking, you want most things in the same place. So then it becomes as part of your day-to-day routine, not I have to click here and then I have to check the whiteboard at home and then I have to check this. Then everything becomes a little bit more scattered. So you do really want one place to go get all your information, but either that be digital or traditional based. That's very dependent on the person to try and implement themselves.
Great. And then kind of going off of that, I was thinking we're almost-ish going into a new year. And I think in terms of like time management and goal setting, there's so much like pressure on setting yearly goals or setting like 90-day goals that people do. Have you found through your work that there's any like type of goal setting in terms of the time that you set the goal or when you set the goal, that seems to be more effective?
Yeah, I think they've proven through an awful lot of studies really that, setting goals really at the start of the year, depending upon your level of motivation and interest, doesn't really make any substantial impact. Unfortunately, businesses make a lot of money about New Year's resolutions, and usually it's health or weight related or image related from that time of year basis. But generally people that can start a goal, you can start it at any minute at any day. It doesn't have to be, I'll start it on Monday, or I'm going to start it in January, or I'll start it at these milestones. I suppose it really is about trying to implement things as quickly as possible. If that's something small, like time your an exam or a project, it really is just about getting going. The more time we invest into, a procrastination aspect or trying to kind of get organized or get ready for it, the more time we're actually wasting instead of actually doing the thing that we need to be doing. So I really don't buy into the kind of New Year's resolutions, although it's nice, but there's nothing stopping people having goals in February and March and April and May and throughout the whole year if they want to. So that's up to each person as to what they feel helps them and supports them with their goals or what types of goals they are achieving. But generally speaking, it will be just about the quicker you get into it, the quicker you can build momentum and move forward.
Yeah, and I think one of the things you mentioned that I think is also kind of goes hand in hand with this conversation is you talked about procrastination. I think procrastination is something everyone obviously has struggled with at least at some point, and it obviously impacts the confidence and all of that as well. Are there any tools or methods that you found through your work that have helped people, I guess, not feel as alone in procrastination or be able to hold themselves accountable to not procrastinating?
I think procrastination, depending upon the view and the lens we take on that, is very different depending upon what's on our plate. So what I mean by that is somebody like that's in a school system, their procrastination maybe, I need to tidy the room before I start study. From a work basis, it might be, oh well, sure, I'd better go to all these meetings and then I'll follow back with the emails. It really depends, I suppose, on the context and the specifics of what procrastination looks like for that individual person. Some aspects of procrastination can also be really healthy. So, for instance, if we're still doing something else and then we need that to do task two, let's say, that's not really procrastination, but often at times we view it in our head as, oh, well, I'm procrastinating. Generally speaking, it would be advised that either, the first thing to do in the day or the start of the week or however you plan your time is that activity, hopefully, that you're putting off. So if people create lists or they like to do all the small things first, or if they're putting something off that, is a really big thing, it's really about, okay, how do I tackle into that? And as you said with our last point, it really is about gaining that momentum because we'll often blow things out of proportion that aren't really aligned to the task unless we're going to some catastrophic, event that's happening. Generally speaking, lots of things are somewhat achievable once we take them bit by bit. But the putting it off makes it build and build and build an awful lot more. So it really is, if we're struggling to get started or get going, it's just about breaking it down and what's the first initial piece I can do with this. If it's drafting something up or writing an email or setting up even the Word document just to get the template of something and then coming back to it tomorrow and breaking things into small bites instead of I have to do it all now when I only have an hour to do it. Well, can we do a little bit today, a little bit tomorrow, a little bit over the next few days, and then break it down that way instead of it being something that's weighing on our mind and we not looking at it.
Yeah. And kind of touching on that, do you see, I feel like with procrastination, there's also probably that feeling of overwhelm that goes hand in hand with it. And obviously, in the past decade and in the decade ahead, a lot of the technology we touch on is going to change a lot. So I'm just curious if in your work, if you've seen any, like how the rapid change of technology has impacted the neurodiverse communities. Um, Ability with time management and maybe understanding of time management. I think there's this outside expectation that it should always get better or always improving. But obviously, we're living in a very different era.
Yeah, well, I suppose there's a lot of layers to that aspect, Grace. Really, in a way, I think, and like just coming at it from an assistive technology lens, obviously there is massive growth there. Probably since even we've joined today, how many hundreds of apps have probably been created or launched, or there's such a fast growth rate in terms of accessibility. I suppose that can only ever be used as a tool and as an advantage for someone with a learning difference, but it is about creating the right alignment. So it really isn't about let's download everything, let's put everything on, yeah, let's use every timer or every time management tool. It really is about taking maybe one tool at a time and seeing how we can implement that regularly because there are a huge amount of tools, but it really is about that alignment of what will fit for you and then what you'll also actually use. So it's not useful to have loads of programs on your computer or on your phone and they need to be updated and they're just not being used. They're just you might as well not have them there. But if you have a few that you're using regularly and that's actually useful for you, then it's about implementing those and expanding upon them as well.
Great. And I guess because I haven't gotten any questions that came through, so I'll just wrap it up for
No
one
problem.
question for you. If you could like give any like advice or any to do after this webinar for people to get started managing their time better just today, what would you recommend?
I think the main basis really to start with is just about those that small step of okay, if there's something really that we're finding really difficult or we're finding difficult to integrate into our time. For most people, that's maybe an aspect of self-care. They're looking after everybody else or they're trying to help everybody else. and they're not maybe integrating those tools for themselves. So it's working from a basis of what aspect of your life are you struggling with from a time management basis, and how can we integrate that further into the day or into the week. And it doesn't then also have to be every day. It's starting with maybe we want to do a little bit more of X activity twice a week. And it's about slotting that into a time basis that hopefully is what we call non-movable. So unless there's an emergency, you're really trying to do the best you possibly can to go do that at that particular time. Because as we know, as things move and later and later and later throughout the day, it might be, well, we were supposed to do this for an hour and now it's changed to 20 minutes because we had to do 40 minutes of something else that pulled us away from that activity. So it really is about that discipline aspect, and trying to stay on top of the plan that you've created.
Great. Well, thank you so much, Una, for this
Perfect.
presentation. And yes, I will upload it. I saw some questions about if it will be available after. And yes, I will upload this recorded webinar to our webinars page on our website. And Una, you can find her work at Blossoms for the number, right? Life on Instagram, all the posts I've tagged her in, and as well on her website. So yeah, thank you so much, Una. And if there's no more questions, I will let everyone go, and have a great Thursday and happy Halloween.
Great. Thanks a million, Grace. Thank you all for joining
Thank
on. I hope
you.
you picked up some useful tips.
Thank you, Una. Have a good
Thanks,
one.
guys.
Bye.